So I'm in this relationship, and a few months ago, my girlfriend and I were fighting a lot. We just couldn't seem to find any ways to agree with each other on many things. And after each fight, just like any responsible boyfriend, I chose to play video games to forget about everything. But surprisingly enough, a puzzle game called Tetris actually had the answer for our relationship. Playing the game, I realized that our way of thinking was just following a very destructive pattern for us as a couple, and we had to do something about it. So today, I would like to share about how Tetris can save a relationship, and how Tetris can help us improve pattern recognition control in life. So what is Tetris? The rule is very simple. There are 7 random pieces that are just like my academic scores, falling constantly from the top to the bottom. Anyway, you can move, you can rotate to fit these pieces together, and when you complete a straight line, that line disappears. So since it first came out, not only has Tetris become the best-selling game, but also one of the most researched video games of all time. Many scientific works have shown the positive effects that Tetris may have on the brain. For example, 1994 study by Okagaki in French and a 2009 research published on BMC Research Notes found that playing Tetris may lead to higher brain efficiency and better cognitive flexibility. For me personally, the benefit I got from the game was a better mental health. Back in high school, I was having trouble sleeping. Stress and worries always followed me to bed, bringing with them the nasty insomnia. And time after time, lying in bed with eyes wide open, I decided to screw it and play Tetris all night instead. But I failed that mission because just after 15 minutes of playing, I started to doze off to forget about my life problem and started to dream about Tetris. So turned out the game was like the OCD version of counting sheep that I needed, and I was able to sleep again. Anyway, I got very interested in this dreaming phenomenon and wanted to know why it happened. That was when I stumbled upon a 1999 research conducted by Professor Robert Stigall in Harvard Medical School. Participants were asked to play Tetris for 3 days, and after that, just like me, they reported dreaming about falling shapes that were similar to Tetris pieces. This phenomenon was called the Tetris effect, and this happened because the brain still retains the afterimage of Tetris during sleep to continue forming new neuron pathways and new patterns to improve at the game. You can experience the same effect when playing sport or solving a Rubik's Cube for a long enough time, and when you started to form new muscle memory. But not just limited to sleep. The Tetris syndrome can also happen when we are awake. People who play Tetris for long hours may involuntarily try to reorganize real-life items geometrically. I know this firsthand because during my first month of intensive playing, my OCD got the better of me and I started to reorganize socks, clothes, and books in my room. And that was also for the first time in my life, my mother liked the idea of me playing a video game. So just like how it can help us improve at Tetris or at cleaning up the room, the Tetris syndrome can also be applied to improve pattern recognition in other situations as well. Why does this matter? Because pattern recognition matters. When there's too much information for us to process, what our brains usually do is they filter information in patterns. And in many cases, we couldn't decide for ourselves what information to keep and what to filter out because the pattern recognition process can happen unconsciously. But we can still give good patterns the best chance to shine by consciously replicating the Tetris syndrome. Let's take a look at a Tetris game for a better visualization. So, because 7 pieces appear randomly and are constantly falling, we need to consciously try our best to build an environment, a playfield, that are accommodable for all 7 pieces. Similarly, in real life, for the pattern recognition process to be effective, we need suitable stimuli. So what we can do is we can consciously construct an environment that promotes and accommodates this suitable stimuli. Let's take a look at a real-life example. Artists travel to beautiful landscapes to find new inspirations. What they are actually doing is they consciously construct an environment that promotes creativity and artistic patterns for them. So all in all, the key takeaway here is we are consciously doing something, we're consciously creating an environment to influence the unconscious process of pattern recognition. So let's get back to my relationship problem. It's obvious what needed to be done here. Whenever talking with my partner, I needed to create an atmosphere that promotes positivity and good conversations, right? Well, turned out it was not that simple. If our conversations was like a Tetris game, it could look something like this. Yeah. We couldn't agree on many things, just like how these pieces don't really fit together. And wrong pieces kept on piling up, preventing necessary and right pieces to fit into holes and gaps beneath them. So just like how people can unintentionally become good at Tetris, what my girlfriend and I were doing for those past few weeks was that we are playing an emotionally negative Tetris game for so long that our brains unintentionally become so good at recognizing negative patterns. So, oops, because there are finite things we can think at once. There's just simply no room for positivity anymore. And I need to dig out these holes first to find room for positivity. So to solve this problem, we first need to understand about the characteristic of good and bad patterns. It's not the pattern itself, but actually the context that decides whether a pattern is good or not. For example, a pessimistic thinking pattern is definitely bad for people who suffer from depression, but it's sometimes good for a business owner when managing business risk. Similarly, in our relationship, negativity is bad because it causes fighting, but it's sometimes good because it helps detect problems and improve the relationship. So all in all, the bigger problem here is not the pattern, but the lack of control, the lack of flexibility in the pattern recognition process. So now we know that we need to be able to change pattern when the context requires to do so. Here is also where we can learn another things from Tetris. After playing the game for some time, what the game actually do is the game will level up and speed up. By that time, if you use the same patterns and the same strategy, pieces will pile up very quickly and boom, game over. So, but luckily for us, right after leveling up, Tetris will keep you a cue by changing its color and playing a short tune. So maybe that is what we need in real life. Because changing to patterns that has the complete opposite effect of what your brain is currently stuck on is very difficult. We need to take a little detour first. Basically, we need a cognitive distraction. A distraction can be anything. A shower after work, a good meal, a good book. But the more rewarding, the better, because the more rewarding, the more dopamine you get. And the more dopamine you get, the more attention you pay on the task. And eventually, you should be able to distract yourself from the old outdated pattern and start to build new patterns again using the conscious environment strategy as previously stated. So I have all the pieces now. It's time to form a strategy. Whenever we are stuck on a pattern, we should distract ourselves with something more rewarding. And when bad patterns wear off, we can then build an environment to promote new, better, good patterns. So I shared this strategy with my girlfriend. At first, it was awkward, like we are about to give a TED Talk presentation, and it was like a TED speech guy. But luckily for me, my girlfriend was very understanding, and we decided to give this a try. Here's how we implemented it. Whenever we were fighting or were about to start a fight, we could stop talking and then do something else more rewarding and less stressful, like think of happy things that happened during the day or listening to some good music. And when the heat between us had cooled down, we would start talking again. And this time we would try to remind ourselves of good characteristics in each other and remind ourselves of the reason why we fall in love in the first place. And And this strategy was surprisingly effective. Turned out our brains prefer love and positivity to negativity and fighting. So I'm happy to say that we are still going strong to this day. So after this speech, I would like to invite you to try a game of Tetris. You may not find a way to control the pattern of life right away, but I think it will still be 15-minute sessions of very simple and entertaining blocks stacking. Maybe life pattern recognition and Tetris are not so different after all. Thank you for listening.